Welcome to another episode of the JustUs Podcast. For now, it'll just be me and Tobs 26 once again, as some of us have been very busy of late finishing stuff.
Hello, people.
And for today's subject matter will be just about Army of the Dead, the latest Zack Attack, this time on Netflix. Yes, indeed. This zombie movie changes everything that we see when it comes to the genre because of late, I honestly think that zombie films have been there, done that, don't you think?
Yeah, uh, you could easily say that they want to do something big with this.
Yep. And we'll go into how big they're going to be later in the year, or rather later in the series, because there is an actual talk for a new series coming up based on Army of the Dead, from prequels to sequels and an anime. We'll probably break it down at
Mhm.
some point once we get it all, but let's dive into the film. Tobbs, what are your thoughts?
Uh, well, the movie first felt slow but very entertaining because you have the usual visuals of Zack Snyder, but then you got into the very interesting stuff, and at that point I started to really like it. I don't know how to define it without going into the movie, like diving into the movie, but I just want to say that I adore the ending above it all. I adore the ending. I love it. It's just fascinating. I was left in awe.
From my own view of the movie, I think it was actually surprisingly complicated. Like, this is more than just a typical point A to point B movie. In fact, it has a little bit more stuff going on between some of the untrustworthiness between a few of the characters, especially considering the fact that our main boy, played by the legendary Batista, Dave Batista, kind of wants a simple, happy life, but is brought into the sort of shit when he has to bring over his old friends from the typical heists, and now has to bring in a shit ton of money.
A ton. I agree. It is far more complex than the typical zombie movie. The last zombie comics that I remember is like World War C and Walking Dead, and they became a bit repetitive, even though they added these layers of, I don't know, government and power and authority. Here they try to leave that a bit in like background, so they can focus more on the characters and they can focus more on these tiny fantasy elements, or more like, I don't know, fantasy, but science fiction maybe, that are added very subtly, and you're just intrigued about what is this about? When are we going to get this explained? And like, I'm just, I don't know, man. It really hooked me. I want to know more.
Even from the beginning, we get to see all this sort of stuff like Area 51. Apparently, there were people pointing out that there were UFOs, so people were wondering if they were alien zombies or zombies that have created, or aliens that resulted into zombies. And it's even more interesting when you look at stuff like the way the zombies' heads were glowing or their eyes were glowing and the fact that they were much more intelligent. Now, let's get it out of the
Yeah.
way. These zombies are different from what we've seen before. They're not the typical moaning, growling type. They're much more aggressive, savage, beastly, violent. They have their own
Got it.
queen. They're much more capable. Well, you can still shoot them down and the like. They're not going to immediately be as easy to beat as you think because they're much faster than normal zombies.
Yeah. And that adds a great, like, attribute to the movie, which is the choreographies and the way you can feel so tense during the fights, not because of horror, but because the characters can die anytime. These zombies are insane. They can do absolutely anything.
You never know when they're going to spring up and attack. especially
Yeah.
considering that they're much more calculatable than previous zombies were. On top of that, they even have their own arsenal, such as the snow tiger.
The
And
tiger.
what a tiger indeed. It's one of those things that you least expect, and well, the average person would probably say like they're gonna make fan art that looks cutesy of the zombie tiger and embrace it. Kind of like what we see with like Grogu or Baby Yoda or Craig from Halo Infinite. Like at least you get the feeling that potential like cult following aside, the zombie tiger has an actual presence to it and has a bit of a threat overall.
Let me tell you something. The tiger is as cute as Steppenwolf was in Justice League.
Zack Snyder's Justice
That,
League.
yeah, that way cute. Because you feel for a creature, but you know it's bad, but you feel for the creature. And there is that one scene that I think everyone enjoyed because the tiger fucking destroys that dude who caused all the bad things in the movie.
Yeah, especially when he tried to go less for like a serum and more for just a head and try to sell it off on eBay. I mean, that guy is a typical scumbag, and I especially liked seeing how another scumbag had mistreated some of the characters, got what he deserved by turning into a zombie.
Oh yeah, the rapist, the fucking rapist. That was cool too.
Yeah, the rapist reminds me so much of the typical verifieds on Twitter that like to think they're above all everyone else. And
They're probably defending that dude in the tweets, like they're defending the character, saying, "Oh my God, Zack Snyder is such a gruesome guy. He tortures characters just for fun." Dude, it's a fucking rapist. Same thing with Man of Steel and that guy who like
the truck.
yeah, the one with the truck who touches the woman's ass. And,
Yeah, I hate that guy so much.
yeah,
And the fact that Twitter pretty much like acts like that with a lot of verifieds kind of proves that they deserve to be thrown in a cell, with or without the tiger.
I don't know
But
how to run myself, but probably a good beat up.
yeah, maybe with some help from the zombie tiger, assuming it knows that you're a friend and not a foe.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, definitely kind of a crazy film, especially from like the opening, where the first 15 minutes that we saw on the official Netflix site kind of feel like its own movie. Whereas the rest of the film, well, yes, you do need the other 15 minutes to understand the context. You can almost see them as like two separate movies. Like one's a short film, the other one is like a new setting overall.
Yeah, man, it felt like Snow Steam Iron, and then you have the movie. But I just love those montages that Zach does. They are so fluid and they show you everything that's occurring at that time, and it shows you all the emotions and all the context you need to so you can understand what's gonna follow it. I just love that style he has. I love that structure he applies. I don't know. Nobody does it like him.
Nobody, not even the
No,
wanker boomers,
not even Joss Whedon.
not even Jeff Johns.
Oh, Jeff Johns can't even hold a camera.
Unless he was trying to like impress the wrong WB exec. But yeah, like definitely like what I think works the most is the fact that we get to see how much has changed after the outbreak. I mean, we see that Las Vegas is in ruins. Everywhere else seems somewhat normal. I mean, we get to see Batista's character pretty much having his own little restaurant and living a normal life until he's told that now it's time for him to go back into Vegas and take some money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see that at least this thing about the worldwide scope, it is not overanalyzed. It is just like superficially explained, and it tries to focus much more on each character individually at first. So you get to know them and you get to understand their personalities and how they're going to react and act
Yeah.
in the future during the movie.
And the characters we do have are kind of like this like ragtag group of some sort of suicide squad. And
Don't say that.
but like the truth is that I like the selection of characters we have here. Like one of them is a sort of like Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. She's pretty much a badass woman. We have another badass woman that's best known for piloting the helicopter that unfortunately doesn't go as well for her in the end. But she's pretty much got like this sort of like if Miss Fritz joined the military and wanted to stand for the flag sort of personality to her. She's got sass. She doesn't like let any crap yelled at her put her down. We even have other characters like one of them who turns out to have survived for most of the fight until he found out that he was bitten during the flight back to New Mexico. He was great.
Made me so sad.
Yeah, like I was honestly relieved when I first saw like the scene of him in the plane. I was thinking to myself, "Oh, okay, like looks like he's gonna collaborate with the boss who stepped in surprisingly and talk about the next
Mhm.
plan." But
Yeah.
then going into the scene with him revealing that he's been bitten makes me wonder two things. Will he cause another outbreak, or is he somehow immune to it because like he's the key to preventing this outbreak from happening again?
I think I would go with the first one. I think they're like setting up a story in Mexico with a new outbreak, and that would be so cool because we don't have too many movies there in Mexico, and I would like to see the Hispanic reaction to an outbreak. You know?
Yeah. I think compared to the Virgin Verifieds, the Hispanic Chads, Mexican Chads,
Oh yeah,
would definitely be very, very happy. I mean, I'm already going to be very
yeah.
happy considering the fact that it's a Zack Snyder film that's going to take even bigger risks than the average zombie film.
Oh, the movie is damn risky. Sag is always risky. Uh, Wait, so you mentioned most of the characters. You mention like the German guy?
Yeah, he kind of reminded me a bit of like, I don't know why, he kind of reminds me like the sort of like with his curly hair, he kind of reminds me of someone that would kind of like feel left out from the fights. Although he does prove himself quite well when holding a
Yeah.
gun.
That is
Definitely.
one complaint about the movie that people have. That is that maybe they are way too talented to be the first time they are using a gun. But then you have this weird thing about the time loop theory that even one of the characters mentions it. And
Yeah.
you're like, wow, what if they lived again and again this whole experience and they can't find a way to do it right? What if they explain this in the future again? What if this is what the whole franchise is about? And I'm like, I want to know
Yeah.
more. Come
Yeah.
on.
Like, in fact, I think that would pretty much work well for the sequel. Maybe, like, the time loop theory can be reinterpreted as this happening in every single part of the world. Every big nation will be affected by whoever gets bitten. And if they spread it around, then it's game over for that part of the world.
And well, they did good. The government obviously did good by like isolating the, the illness, let's say, sort of like COVID, but
Yep.
only in Las Vegas. So
Yeah, and with less destruction.
yeah, Viva Las Vegas.
Oh, God, it's kind of getting reminded of that one Robot Chicken skit where Curious George caused like a disease outbreak, and wherever he lived had a nuke destroy the city.
Oh, and when the song started to play, I got reminded of that very average Looney Tunes live action movie. Do you remember that one?
Which one was it? Space Jam or Back into Action?
Back in Action, that one.
Oh my god, that one! Apart from a few scenes, I kind of forgot about.
I really like that Vegas scene and the last part, I think, with the Martian and Duffy Dog in space and stuff. I always enjoy that part.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think I'm talking about another thing that it's not Army of the Dead. So I'm sorry.
Back to this movie. Like in general, I think that Army of the Dead knows how to be different from what we've seen before, especially when you compare it to Dawn of the Dead. Like, how many differences can you find in terms of the structure of the story between the two of the Dead films?
Um, I think they have similar points, but obviously, I think John of the Dead may be more expositive, while Army of the Dead is more spectacular. And it doesn't mean that they don't explore things as well, is they're just different in that.
So one's more action driven.
Yeah, Army of the Dead is much more action driven. And well, in both movies, they all fucking die almost.
Yeah, pretty much. Although the feeling I get
Spoiler,
from, go on.
I just said spoiler alert.
Oh, huh. What I was trying to say was like with Dawn of the Dead, you get the feeling that it's one of those movies where there's no hope, where nothing good will come out of the protagonists. They have to run or else they're gonna die. And even then they're not gonna make it either way. Whereas with Army of the Dead, not only does it give off the feeling that the dead is much more of a bigger threat because of the aforementioned intelligence and strength that they have, but they're also much there's like a bit of a higher chance that our protagonists can fight back. It's got the feeling of we're not backing up, we're not going down. If we're going down, so are they sort of mentality. Especially
Yeah, yeah.
from the trailers and especially throughout the movie where they shot down zombies. They make great ways of taking them on. Like one of them pretty much uses the head as bait towards one of the main zombie antagonists, which
Oh man.
kind of shows that even in spite of the altered intelligence that they have, that they still have a bit of a humanity to them, but it's much more twisted. It's like
Oh, Zack.
it's like when you kill the zombie queen. It's like when you kill the queen bee. They're all gonna go after whoever killed the queen bee.
Yeah, I can see that. That's basically how you could compare it. Man, when when the head falls,
Yep.
oh, that was so disgusting. But like you almost celebrated.
Yeah. Speaking of the gore, like this movie is absolutely gory to the top, and kind of like a juxtaposed to like the somewhat mild gore that we saw with the way the parademons died in the Snyder cut, or from Steppenwolf getting his head crushed after it was decapitated by Wonder Woman. But it makes
Here
sense.
it's more explicit.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like this movie is definitely a lot more like aggressive. It doesn't hold any punches back. It's like I don't want to say in your face because I usually use that when I get annoyed with something, but it's more out there. It's more explicit by comparison, especially with this being a more unique IP with its own vision and stories, without any of the worry about compromises from execs.
Yeah, the only part you would say that it's a bit on your face is when the last zombie is killed in a helicopter and all the head like blows up. It doesn't make sense, but it's so epic. And since it's the final zombie, you just want to see it unfold in a spectacular way.
Yep. And on top of that, like the rest of the gore in the movie is just like it's beautiful. From like the zombie queen's head being decapitated slowly but painfully, to
Oh
the
yeah.
characters being bitten, to stuff like one of the female characters getting her head twisted around, breaking the neck.
Oh
Like
man,
it
I
was so
wasn't
sudden.
expecting that.
Like it was so sudden. It's like whoa! It's like holy shit! The fucker just killed her in a
You could see
second.
the fucking spine like getting broken from the neck and just showing out from the skin. It just was just wow.
Yeah, it's like holy shit that they didn't even like make it seem any sort of like oh don't worry like it's not that severe like yes it is severe. The movie confirmed it outright. And
They usually just do the neck flip, but here it was all of it, like all the body, like that.
it's like no punches were held back in that, or in this case, no neck breaks were held back. And
Nope.
it's kind of funny since that felt more that felt more like a pants shitting scene, whereas one of the zombies that went through all the traps sort of felt a little more comedic, from it being like hit with darts to being shot in bullets and then getting splat by the walls. Kind of felt like a little uh, I don't want to say cartoony, but it definitely had one of the stock sound effects of a splatter, which kind of made me think, oh, okay, you guys are playing around.
Zack is playing us. Come on.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like when you have like like something like from Doom Eternal, where it's like all this really messed up stuff, and then you go into Doom Guy's room and you see like his little comics, his little action figures, his bed. It's like a little way of teasing the player, being like, "You thought this was serious? Like, come on, we have a bit of a funny side too."
They do have a comedic side. And so yeah, that's like the most intense part of the movie.
Yeah,
What do you think about the characters? Like besides the dad,
I already liked like
who
most
is
of the
the
characters and described some of them as well. I think my favorite one has to definitely go to the old lady, because she definitely has that like take like like a talk back attitude to where she's got her way of having her own slang. She pretty much feels like she's been through this before. She feels like a veteran that's come back to help out the new kids and sort of make them understand how important this stuff is. It's kind of
wait, who
like
are you talking about? Coyote?
the lady with the who was piloting the helicopter.
Oh, the one played by Tig Notaro.
Yeah,
Notaro. I don't know how to say it. Sorry.
names are kind of hard to keep track of unless they're like really specific, like Howard Ratner or uh, yeah.
Yeah, I
But
really like that character. At the end, I thought like she was just gonna disappear, and that's it. That
yeah,
is the end. And then
but
suddenly she shows up.
yeah,
I was like,
it's like her saying like, "Ha, made you look. Let's get out of here." Absolutely, like
gotcha.
yeah, absolutely fun to see her character. I mean, like if I were to see her in another film, I kind of want to see her a like do some sort of role where she's pretty much helping out the new recruits. If she was in a different movie, now, I'm not sure if we'll see her character again in the prequel series, but maybe she can definitely be sort of like uh, I don't want to go for an obvious example from an obvious pop culture reference, but How about one of the characters from uh, Full Metal Jacket, but sort of with a bit of sass to her?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And yes, I think she will be in the TV series, so don't worry about it.
That's great. And talking of the ending, it was kind of sad to see most of the characters die, especially when not all of them were able to make it in time, and even some of them that I thought that you would think would make it in time end up getting killed. With the only one survivor being like one of the female characters who had no choice but to kill Dave Bautista's character as he was slowly becoming a zombie.
Yeah, Kate, the daughter,
Yeah. And
and she's receiving like a lot of backlash. But even the actress answered that, saying that, "What the fuck? You're just getting mad at that character because she's probably a woman, to be honest." The main reason why everything happens is because of that fucking dumbass who like betrays them, cutting off the head of the
yeah,
queen and
he,
stuff.
he was a lot more greedy there. Like, now I don't remember exactly if she said that you hate her character because it's a woman, but in other case, you might want to
That's just
learn.
my perspective.
Was she being sarcastic?
No, no, no. That's my perspective. Sometimes I believe that most of the geek culture gets mad, especially at female characters.
Well, I was about to
Because
say that if it were her, then I'd probably tell her to learn a thing or two from the mistakes that Kathleen Kennedy did with female Star Wars characters.
oh
Yeah,
well,
with the mentality of like, if they don't like her, then we'll call them sexist, racist, neo Nazis, KKKs, and Trump supporters, and all that stupid
no,
crap.
that's just me, to be honest. I do think there is a bit of sexism going on at times, but not always.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's just stupid.
yeah, like some of it's a more probably might be more genuine. Like maybe some people didn't like how like maybe they misunderstood her character, whereas when you look at the way Disney Star Wars handles stuff, it's pretty much like you're not even trying to like convince us that the character is good. All you're doing is just calling out the audience just because they don't like the character. But
Yeah.
Kate, she's cool beans. Though I did feel bad for her that she had to kill her father, especially since I was honestly expecting Dave Bautista's character to survive, but sadly not.
No, they all fucking died. Even the woman that was supposed to like be reunited with her daughter. Was it her daughter too?
I think so. It's been a kind of like weird thing to not remember the most of the characters' names, but yeah, that's what happens when we're
Ida.
all stuck with like all the IPs.
Yeah. And well, let's talk about the other deaths. Like first, you have the this girl who was super badass and was basically killing off all the zombies who were in the, how do you say it? Where were they exactly? They
When
were
they're all
going
sleeping,
underground, right? At
I
first.
think they're like in a hibernation area.
Yeah. And well, basically the chaos is unleashed and she starts fighting back all of them. And I kind of got frustrated when the other guy didn't do much to help her. But then I was like, good job when he decided to shoot at the how do you say it, like that gas thing that
Yeah,
explodes.
which I might add another Star Wars reference, but isn't me or did the explosion of the sound sound like it, or like the sound explosion sort of belonged to a Star Wars blaster?
Maybe it did.
Yeah, it makes me think about like Princess Leia's gun from Lego Star Wars 2 and Complete Saga.
I don't pay too much attention to sound effects, but I do like it when they use that typical uh, yell, like scream. I mean, you know,
Wilhelm scream?
the popular what?
The Wilhelm scream?
Yeah, I think it's that one, the most popular one that it's used in every movie.
Yeah, it's classic sound. And
Yeah.
it's almost like required by law to do it. And otherwise, if you don't have it, then you better pay a fee and make sure the rest of the movie's good. No, I'm just kidding. It's like either way, it's like a great way to depict the scene, especially when they can't really shine any light, but at the same time, they have to find a way to go through and hope they don't bump into anything.
But they do all the time. More and more problems coming up. And I really like the dynamic between Dieter or Dieter and he had a real weird name. What was it like? Vander Vanderohe? I don't recall exactly.
Kind of sounds like it's trying to say robber and a cowboy in both Spanish words at the same time, but yeah, it is kind of a weird name.
Well, I just really like that dynamic. It felt very genuine, and it was just like giving a bit of wholesome to the whole um, feeling of the movie. It was just too depressing at times and too conflicted because you had either the father and the daughter fighting or inner teammates fighting, and just
Yeah.
seeing that was refreshing and it made you feel good.
Yeah, it kind of shows that even though things are not going well for them, they at least have a few moments of like optimism in a way. Even if it's not 100% there, at least they know for a fact that they can try and keep it together at the best of their ability.
Yeah, and when Dieter sacrifices himself to save his friend, I just felt so bad. I mean, why? I just like them both so much. I wanted them both to survive. I barely cared about any other except for Dave Bautista and the daughter. I just wanted them both to survive.
Same.
But
But
oh well, can't go as I wanted to. I wanted, and I like it that characters die in a dramatic way.
yeah, and it definitely is proof that like even if they can't, even if they have the ability to fight back, they're not going to make it so safely. Whether it's from immediately dying or making it until the end. It's kind of like when you
Exactly.
It's like when you go into a race and you know for a fact that you're almost like on your last few breaths in a way, but when you make the final lap or finish the final lap, you end up like falling on your face and almost like you're tired of everything and are almost want to die.
Yeah, I mean, they build up all this context, and this context cannot go easy on you. It's just gonna be very, very hard and cruel. Sort of reminds me of Attack on Titan as well, that they present you a lot of characters and whoop, goodbye.
Yeah. Or in a more familiar case to me, Uncut Gems, where a protagonist goes to one of the most extreme
Oh,
levels of like frustration and intensity, and almost like he can't really make a way out. But even when he almost like wins, like it comes at the cost of his own life.
that movie is fantastic.
I'm honestly surprised to enjoy a movie that involves like Dave Bautista and one that involves Adam Sandler. Like,
And we're comparing them both.
yeah, and it kind of makes sense too because I think most people associate Dave Bautista, if not for WWE, then his role as Drax in the MCU, which is a decent role, but I feel like it has been like sidelined as for a more comedic one. Even though Drax is one of those characters that you got to give a lot of respect to. It's like I know the Dark Guardians of the Galaxy are a bit niche until the MCU brought them to cinematic life, but looking back, I think Drax should sort of have like a bit of like a parallel to Cyborg, where you'd want them to feel like they matter instead of just being there for Cyborg when we saw him in Justice, the token black guy, and for Drax in the MCU for him to just be like this big dummy that's strong.
Dude, I hate how they handled Drax. He was my favorite character with Rocket in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And then in the second one, he was just a complete fool. Dumb, stupid alien. That was it. That was his character trait. And obviously, then in Infinity War and in Endgame, he barely has any development aside from some stupid jokes.
Massive shame right there. And over the fact there are plenty of people out there that love Drax.
I used to be one, not anymore.
Same. I'm now
Well,
going to become the Dracker or the Dragster. Wait, what?
I remember Dave Bautista though from the beginning of Blade Runner 2049.
Oh
Dude,
yeah,
he proved he could act in that movie. At least at the beginning, he was barely in it, obviously, but I just said, huh, he has been more talent than I thought he did.
yeah. And with, like using another example with like Adam Sandler, like usually associate him with these stupid comedies that are pretty much panned by everybody, like Grown Ups, Jack and Jill, and even
Yeah,
when he gets into
Jack and
something big like Pixels, it's still one of those terrible comedies. Like Pixels definitely has a lot in common with the 2016 Ghostbusters film. It's not even funny,
Oh,
but
Pixels is one of the worst movies I've ever watched.
it's
I'm going
pain.
to puke during it.
But when you go into Uncut Gems, you get surprised by his performance because it's different. He's not the typical like typical dad who pretty much wants like has like it's not like that sort of typical like comedic dad role. He actually has layers to him. He's more distinct from what we've seen before. He's got new things to him that we've not like expected him to have, such as like his own methods of being a bit of a protagonist that is more than willing to delve into things that are much more on the cheating side. Like he's a little more shady in some areas.
I think for that to happen, there needs to be two factors. One, that you take your profession seriously, because I Tumblr kind of likes that vibe of his to just be the comedic relief and make those kind of funny haha movies. And you also need a director who's willing to give you uh, like a character that has more layers and it's more profound than the usual superficial ones in those comedies.
Yeah, I'm pretty much thankful for a time where we have Howard Ratner in Uncut Gems and our main protagonist in Army of the Dead, whose name is like escaping me because I am kind of shameful of what I did and forgetting his name. But yeah, two great actors are now back in action with two awesome movies.
Yeah, I think maybe the movie could have done that better. Remind us more of the names.
Yeah,
Because I remember all the faces, but I just struggle to remember the names, except for the main ones.
I think at the very least, like with Dave Bautista being a big name, I wouldn't mind calling him Dave Bautista's character, simply because like I already knew Dave Bautista before, like even before like Guardians of the Galaxy. I knew him from like WWE, even if it's mostly from a YTP called Bab Drops a Bomb.
Hmm.
And there's like a scene where it's like, I guess I'll have to shit inside this pit. Yeah! And it cuts to him like grunting, but it actually cuts to a scene of a guy putting out ice cream. oh, oh god, Snake Guy, come back and make YTPs, please. Even if you're safe. I hope you're safe at the very least. But with so much talked about for Army of the Dead, what would you like to see from any spin-off material?
Well, what we already talked about, I would like to see how it is played out. That like new outbreak that is probably going to happen in, was it New Mexico, or am I just
I believe it is
making
New
a
Mexico. Either
it was
way,
New Mexico
yeah, either way, it could be a Mexico.
or a Mexico?
Yeah, New Mexico,
um,
Old Mexico.
okay, and I would like to venture on the more science fiction e part of the franchise. I would like to know where does this like virus of zombies come from, because you could say it feels like it is from the outer world, especially knowing that two ovnis just pass, like they fly through the sky at the beginning, right at the start. You see two lights, phew, like that.
Yeah,
I want to see that explored, and maybe a prequel with a bit of what happened in between, maybe with some characters. I want to see more of Dieter. I really like that one. I don't know why. He was my favorite.
I definitely say that we could all expect this stuff in some capacity. Now, of course, I know for a fact that with Netflix, regardless of your point of views on Netflix, they know how to give a director like Zach much more respect than uh, the Wanker Boomers do.
Oh, I,
So,
I really respect Netflix for what it does with artists. Like recently, Bo Burnham. Do you know Bo Burnham? It's a bit hard to say his name. He got a new special, and I saw it today, a new comedy special, and it was just insane. Like it made no sense. It felt like a David Lynch movie, and it's so weird to think that Netflix said yes, put that in the catalog of our platform and promote it.
yeah. Now, with the release of Army of the Dead and the respect towards Zack Snyder, mean I'm going to delete my Cuties reacting review video thingamajiggy?
No, no, no,
Absolutely
keep it.
not. I'm going to keep it on there, Netflix. So, like,
No, no, no. Don't apologize for that. Don't
yeah, I'm
regret
not
it.
going to apologize
They need
whatsoever.
they
Like,
knew they made a mistake. They need to be acknowledged, and they need to remember it forever,
yeah.
so they don't repeat that same mistake.
So, like, that's definitely accountability over entertainment. But at the very least, they compromised by making the entertainment that we get uh, superior to what they try to force everyone to watch. So in a way, it's accountability and good entertainment over bad entertainment. With the good
Yeah,
entertainment being Army of the Dead, and the bad entertainment being shit like Cuties.
yeah. And let's not mention that one guy that loves it a lot and probably plays it every night when he's lonely.
I forgot his name. Is he dead? Maybe his name is Dead. First name Dead, last name
No,
Guy.
I'm talking about one Twitter user who defends it with a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, probably looked like someone that was like in need of more coffee. Maybe a soy latte from Starbucks would do. I don't know. But yeah, that pretty much sums up our review of Army of the Dead. What a tremendous experience it was, and it kind of revitalized my interest in the zombie genre because of late, like we said earlier, it just felt kind of been there, done that. But this movie is more than willing to have a bigger vision than what we've seen before. And however we get to see the prequel and sequel stuff from this series, I'm more than willing to support it because this is the kind of Zack Attack that I love to see more often. And if we don't get ourselves a Snyderverse, then we'll make do with this Snyderverse as
Yeah. And just let me clarify one thing. Don't try to compare this movie, Army of the Dead, to other projects from Zack because this is just brand new. This is completely fresh. You need to know that the script was written like a long way back, and it's just its own thing, its own huge genre with a lot of other themes mixed in it, like a hybrid. And you just need to enjoy it, man. Don't like you can analyze it and you can spot a lot of nice Easter eggs and details and theories, but just don't overanalyze it to the point you want to find in it like perfection, like they always do with Zack. Just try to enjoy it as what it is. Come on.
And if you overanalyzed, don't get angry if a few Snyder cultists, in air quotations, look for your homemade videos and laugh at you for being a goofy boy or goofy girl or goofy ass, whatever the term is these days.
You know I'm a bit pretentious, but not that pretentious.
But yeah, also since you mentioned it's a new franchise, apparently the Winker Boomers were originally going to make this movie, but then they sold the rights to Netflix, and now it's biting him in the ass.
Dude, imagine being Wanker Boomers.
Yeah.
Sad.
Suck it, Winker
Oh, man.
Boomers.
Suck it. That was great. I didn't expect that to happen. Zack even said it. Oh, man.
Yeah. He had every right to say it, and it's almost as good as when the Joker told the one guy, Murray, you get what you fucking deserve. But instead of shooting a Wanker Boomers logo, he pretty much smacks him with the success of Army of the Dead and the attention it's received.
So yeah, that is Army of the Dead, and I really liked it. It is not the best from Zack because it doesn't intend to be the best, but it is probably one of the most enjoyable ones.
It also definitely, absolutely got me more interested in the zombie genre, as I mentioned like plenty of times already. So I'll say it right there. I'm interested in what we're gonna get.
And ironically, almost dead genre is revived by the boss, the one and only.
Yep. It ain't on no shitty ass sci-fi channels bullshit. It's on a bigger platform with a bigger vision in mind, with a bigger artist. And however many stuff we get in the future, I'm more than willing to support it all. But that does it for today's episode. Thank you guys for checking out a review, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.